Welcome to episode 177 of the Sports Marketing Machine podcast, powered by Revelocity Sports. I'm your host, Jeremy Nizer. This is part 3 of the 3-part series on fan journeys, the final episode. If you haven't listened to parts 1 and 2, I'll put links in the show notes. Go back, start there. Today's episode builds on both of them. Part 1, I introduced the framework, the capture, know, respond, return, grow. Part 2, I showed you where fans typically leak out. There's 3 areas. Typically, it's the capture gap, the relevance gap, and the re-engagement gap. Today, we're closing the loop. Remember at the top of episode 1, I asked you if I handed you a whiteboard marker and said, hey, draw me your fan marketing process, could you do it? Most marketing directors cannot. If you've been following along with the series, you can now. You know exactly what to put up there. You know the 5 stages. You know where the gaps are. You know where your fans are typically leaking out. Now comes the part that actually matters. What do you do about it? Because here's the thing. I've seen teams get things wrong when they understand the diagnosis. They try to fix everything at once, and they end up fixing nothing. Today, we're talking about how to plug the leaks and specifically where to start. Let's get to it. When a team maps out their fan journey and they start to see where leaks are, the instinct is usually, hey, we got to fix all of this. While that may be true, and you may say things like, we need a better email software, we need this, we need to spend money on that. Like, you can't do all of that, right? Here's what happens when I see teams trying to fix everything, is you fix actually nothing. You spend 6 months planning and doing stuff and you don't make any progress, right? And planning is great, but you need to make progress. The teams that actually make progress do something different. Here's what they do. They find their biggest leak. They plug that one first. Then they move to the next one at a time in order of impact. So how do you know where your biggest leak is or what your biggest leak is? Here's the framework that I would use. Let's look at 3 numbers. First, how many fans attended a game last year? Take that list, put it together. Let's say it was 1,000. Second, of those fans, how many came back for a second game that season? Let's say it was 100. So you had 1,000 single game buyers last year, and 100 of those came back for the second game. So 10%. All right, super simple here. Third, of those who came back, how many of those are now plan holders or season ticket members? So mini plan holders, flex plan, punch card, whatever it is, how many of those? So out of those 100 folks that attended multiple games, let's just say 20 of those are now ticket plan holders. Now you've got numbers. You got 1,000 single game buyers, 100 multi-game buyers of the 1,000, and of those 100, 20 of which became a mini plan or a season ticket holder, right? The gap between number 1, which in this case, in this example, is 1,000, and number 2, which in this case is 100, is your capture gap. If you had 1,000 unique single game attendees and 100 of them came back, that's 90% drop off right off the top of your journey. That's where you start. The gap between number 2 and number 3 is a combination of your relevance gap and your re-engagement gap. So remember the numbers I gave you: 1,000 single game buyers, 100 of those became multi-game buyers, and only 20 of those became single game or became a mini plan or a ticket plan holder, right? So there's you go from 100 to 20. That's 80 in there. So you lost 80 in that, right? That is the combination of your relevance gap and your re-engagement gap. If repeat buyers aren't converting to plan holders, your communication isn't building enough momentum to get them there. Whichever the gap is the widest, that's your biggest leak. So in this case, if it went from 1,000 to 100, that's your biggest gap. You got to get more single game buyers to become multi-game buyers during the season. That's your starting point. So if your biggest leak is exactly where I just said, between the capture and the know, if you're losing most out of your your fans right after their first game, here's what I would focus on. Build a post-game sequence, not a single email, a sequence. Something that goes out automatically after the fans' first game and then walks them through a logical next step. The first email goes out 24 hours. It acknowledges that they were just there. It thanks them. It asks them a simple question, maybe a survey, maybe a prompt to tell you what they thought. The goal of this email isn't to sell anything. It's to continue the conversation while the experience is still fresh and capture some more information. So the second email a few days later is where you could potentially make an offer. It's not a generic offer, an offer that makes sense for a first-time attendee. A one more game offer, maybe a small flex plan, something with a low barrier of entry and a clear reason to say yes. This could be a $50 package or a $100 package for $50 that includes X, Y, and Z. Something simple that they look at this and say, well, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Absolutely, I do this. The third email, a week or so later after that, is for the fans who didn't respond to the first two. A gentle check-in, a different angle to the offer. That's it. 3 emails, they're automated, they're running without having anyone to think about it. That alone will close a meaningful portion of your capture gap. Now let's take 2 steps back. What I just said was single game buyers who came out last night, put them in an email journey. So 3 emails in a sequence. Don't take them and drop them immediately in your email blast list. Create a journey that says, hey, thanks for coming out last night. Here is a survey, and then you move them to the next thing for a special offer and the next thing, right? So now they're in a different journey than you just would typically take them and dump them into the big email list that's got 9,000 or 20,000 or what have you in there, right? So now you see, like, gosh, we're being a little bit more intentional of what we're doing here. Now, the next one here is plugging the relevance gap. Remember, I said the numbers of 1,000 single game buyers. We had 100 return for another game, and then we had 20 that turned into a mini plan, right? If your biggest leak is between the no and respond, if you're getting fans your emails, but they're not engaging, here's what I would want you to focus on: segmentation, but not complicated segmentation. Split your emails into 3 buckets. Fans who have attended once, fans who attended 2 or 5 times, and fans who attended maybe 6 times or more. Send each group a different email, different subject line, different offer, different tone. Something like that would absolutely help you. You're not segmenting them by, well, these are families, this is this. You could do that with your surveys, but what I'm saying is, if they came to 2 games, put them in a bucket. If they came to 3 to 5 games, put them in a list. If they came for 5 games or more, put them in a different list and give them different offers and see which one resonates. Now you're testing and you're seeing what's actually happening. In all reality, if 85% aren't coming back the next year, which is the number for minor league baseball, like, you're not losing anything, you're learning here. And if the outcome is I sold more of these packages and I got them to come out to more games, like, hey, great, thumbs up, that works, right? The one-time attendee, the single game buyer who came out, they're going to get a different message to someone that came to 3 to 5 games. The fan who came to 5 games or more gets a different message than someone that could potentially be a season ticket prospect. If you're sending the same email to all 3, you're being relevant to none of them. You don't need a $50,000 CRM or all these fancy email softwares. Active Campaign is one that's like $3,000 a year. Like, you don't need to spend all that money for this basic segmentation. What you need is a spreadsheet and a willingness to write down these 3 versions of the emails and have the 3 different lists and automations inside of your email software, and then be able to look at it maybe once a week or what have you and put them in there and see what you can get folks to buy from there. That's where you start. You get relevant with the data that you already have. Now, time to plug the re-engagement gap. If your biggest leak is between the respond and return, if your fans are going quiet after a few touch points and not coming back, here's what I would focus on: a win-back sequence. This is different from your regular email blast. A win-back sequence is specifically designed for fans who have been quiet for a defined period of time. And it could be, these are folks that came out last year that have not been out this year or haven't been out in 2 years. Whatever it is, Whatever makes sense for you, do that. Put that together in your win back sequences. When a fan hits that threshold, when they've gone 2 years since they haven't came back, then they automatically are put into the win back sequence. They get a specific series of emails designed to reactivate them. Not your regular promotional content, something that acknowledges the gap and gives them a reason to come back. The subject line matters here. We miss you. I mean, that's okay, but you can do better. It's been a while. Here's something just for you. Now, that's a little bit better of a subject line. Give them something specific. It could be a discount, an exclusive offer, a value add, something, an invitation to a special event, whatever it is, something that makes coming back feel like a decision worth making. The goal of the win back sequence isn't to get everyone to come back. It's to identify who still has interest and get them to come back into the journey. The fans who don't respond after 3 or 4 emails, let them go. That's okay. Focus your energy on the people who do re-engage. I want to close with something that I think is the most important insight of all of these, the entire series and what we've been talking about with email here. Most teams look at their fan journey problem as a tools problem. If we just had this or if we just had that, we could do all this stuff. If we had a better email budget or if I had more staff, right? Tools matter, automation matters, data matters. But a lot of these email softwares, Constant Contact, MailChimp, a lot of these already have this stuff baked in there, but you just have to be intentional of going there and building these things out. The teams that we've seen that make the biggest jump in attendance and revenue, they didn't always have the best tools. They had the best clarity about their fan journey and the discipline to work on it systematically. It is easy to have a list and you're checking things off and moving to the next one. But if you're thinking about marketing and you're thinking about your fan journey and you're saying, hey, I can see where the biggest leak is. I know what to do to fix this, and I've done this, and I can create this inside of this software, and I'm just going to start doing this just to see what happens, right? You're going to start to see some movement because you're doing something that is different than what you're currently doing right now, which is exporting a list and importing a list, right? The ones that I've seen that work the best are the ones that have built this one thing, plugged it in, watched it work, and then they move to the next one. I'm not asking you to do 60 things. I'm saying get really good at 1 or 2 things here. The tools are secondary. The system is primary. Here's the part that should be genuinely encouraging. Most sports teams already have everything they need to start. They've got a ticketing platform, they've got an email tool, they've got fan data. It's all there. What's missing isn't the technology. It's someone who sees how everything connects. That's the work. That's where we help teams do it. But if you're following along, you're like, hey, Jeremy, I just need 20 minutes for you to help me walk through a couple of these things. I want to do it myself. Schedule a call. There's a link in the show notes or go to sportsmarketingmachine.com. Schedule a call. I am more than happy to talk with you for 20, 30 minutes about how this might look, what it would look like for your team, how to build this out inside of Constant Contact or MailChimp. When you get this running, even if you're just testing it, you're going to start to learn things and you're going to get better and better and better. And you're just going to get out of this cycle of doing the same exact things, exporting and importing and exporting and importing. And now you're starting to think things through differently because your fan journey is mapped out. You know what you're doing. You're being intentional with each thing. And that, my friends, is how you sell more tickets and grow your fan base moving forward. That's the Fan Journey series, 3 episodes, 1 framework, 1 diagnostic tool, and really 1 way forward for you to be able to get out of the processes that you've been doing now and move to the next level to sell more tickets. So if you've been following along, here's what I want you to walk away with. Your team is already running the fan journey. You got to map it out, draw it out, find out where your biggest leak is. Start working on that thing there. If you look at it and say, hey, I got 1,000 fans that came out to one game this year or last year and only 100 came out to the second one. Start focusing on how do I turn a single game buyer into a multi-game buyer. If you fix that, your revenues will jump. You're going to be so great at doing that one thing that every single team in America struggles with. And then when you master that and say, hey, instead of 1,000 and a drop off to 100, it's 1,000 and we drop off to 500, and you're like, hey, I've done a really good job with this. I've increased it by 60%. Move to the next thing. But start with one thing at a time. What separates the teams that grow from the teams that plateau are the ones that are running systems, not campaigns. Because campaigns end. Systems compound. If you have found this series useful, send it to your GM, external relations director. Send it to a friend who's working in sports trying to sell more tickets. Send it to your ownership group. This is the kind of conversation that changes how an entire organization thinks about their fan marketing. If you want to talk through what this looks like for your specific team, pop on the Sports Marketing Machine, schedule a call. I would love to chat with you about how this would work. And then if you're interested, we're happy to talk with you about how we do this, but I want to see you win. So in some cases, you don't need us, but we're happy to help you. But I'm happy to share with you the information, the insight, provide you a little bit of guidance as you start to try to do this yourself. I surely hope that you have found some value in this episode and the other two. I'll put a link in the show notes. And until next time, appreciate you tuning in. Take care.